North Korean leader Kim Jong Un reportedly asking the Pope to visit his country. That's according to South Korea. The invitation announced on the heels of a visit to Pyongyang by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo Sunday. He says a second summit with President Trump and Kim is close to a done deal. Senator Cory Gardner is a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. He joins us now. Senator, first of all, the Pope to North Korea, is that a likely scenario?
Well, I certainly think that Pope will consider this very carefully before he makes any decision to do this. But clearly, Kim Jong Un has a lot to ask for forgiveness. The assassination of his stepbrother, the blowing away of his brother-in-law, I believe it was, with an anti-aircraft gun, the basically imprisonment of millions of people in North Korea, starving his own people for his own betterment and enrichment. So there's a lot of things that this guy, Kim Jong Un, has done that he's responsible for, that perhaps a conversation with the Pope would be a little bit redeeming.
We're finding this out through a statement from South Korea. North Korea, putting this message through the South. And Chairman Kim apparently told South Korea's Moon that the Pope would be enthusiastically welcomed in North Korea. What do you think the motivation is there?
Look, the motivation is entirely clear. It's Kim Jong Un trying to flatter the world, show the world that he can bring in big names, big people, the President of the United States, the Secretary of State, the Pope, for Pete's sake, and try to show that they're a rational actor. But the bottom line is this: they are not and will not be considered a rational actor, a responsible global leader, until they follow international law. International law clearly says, which they're in violation of right now, they must denuclearize. And so until they do that, there's no sort of legitimization that's going to occur of North Korea. Follow the law, follow the rule of law, follow international law, and then maybe they can have all the visits they want.
But all of this coming on the heels of what Mike Pompeo is describing as a very productive meeting with North Korea. Watch.
We had a good, productive conversation, as President Trump has said. There are many steps along the way, and we took one of them today with another step forward.
We had a good, productive conversation. He described this as significant progress, what we're seeing to date, in a long process. So, Senator, how would you characterize the progress that we are making with North Korea today?
Well, there was some sense early on that we would have a succeed fast, fail fast kind of strategy, that we would know very quickly whether we were going to succeed or fail. I think what you're seeing now is the recognition this is going to be a long haul. But throughout this process, we cannot let up our pressure. We have to continue our efforts on maximum pressure, continue our sanctions regime, continuing punishing those who are violating our sanctions as it relates to North Korea, whether that's China, Russia, or individual actors in North Korea or around the globe. I think this administration has done a very good job in opening up the channels of communication that previously were shut down. But I want to make sure that this is just more of the same, that we're not going back over 40 years of reruns here, so that we can get everybody excited and enthused about what North Korea will do, only then at the very end to pull the rug out from underneath everybody, so to speak, and result in no denuclearization.
Well, the Wall Street Journal editorial board, which has been critical at times through this process and the characterization of progress being made there, backs up what Mike Pompeo said after this meeting with North Korea on Sunday, writing North Korea's baby steps. Quote, the best argument for Mr. Pompeo's optimism is that all of this amounts to confidence building that would make the North feel comfortable with nuclear disarmament. But the fact that it is being done on the North's slow timetable and perhaps with U.S. concessions up front means the North has the diplomatic advantage. What do you think of that?
Well, I think the North understands very well that they're looking at a United States election cycle coming up in just, 30 days here in the U.S., 2 years for the president. That's for the midterms congressional elections. They understand that perhaps the diplomatic environment changes after elections. What happens if they wait for the next president, whether that's President Trump or somebody else? I think they're very clever at what they're trying to do. They are going to take a long time because they know time works to their advantage and benefit. Are they able to break off our allies in the meantime? What can they do to try to drive a wedge between South Korea and the United States? Will they convince the president that, hey, let's take a look at troops in South Korea, which I think the removal of would be a very bad idea. I think that's what they're trying to do. Look, these are very savvy operators. I think for people who thought that this was just a backwards nation, I think one thing they didn't realize is that they've actually been very clever participants in this diplomatic game for decades, and Kim Jong Un seems to have picked up that cleverness from his father and grandfather.
And then, of course, word now that Kim Jong Un is ready to invite international experts in to inspect this nuclear test site. We know they invited international journalists to witness it being demolished back in May. But experts weighing in say it's the range of inspection that is really going to count here.
Right. It's the range, it's the location, and are they going to be able to test the soil? Are they going to be able to go into facilities beyond this? Are they going to have a full disclosure of the facilities? Will there be unfettered access of all of these facilities around the country? This isn't just a one-site location where the nuclear tests were taking place. There's computer modeling, there's laboratories, there's research being done at any number of facilities, and so a one-time, one-off limited inspection simply isn't good enough. Now, I'm glad we are where we are. I'm glad we haven't seen missiles flying over the past several hundred days. That's an improvement. That's an advancement. But we have a long ways to go to make sure that they achieve the promise they made in Singapore, and that's denuclearization.
Well, it's being characterized different ways, but nonetheless, a lot happening, meetings happening, and now an invitation from the Pope, reportedly, from North Korea. So we'll see where this goes. Senator Cory Gardner, thank you.
Thanks for having me.